Hey everyone. So I was sitting here folding towels, as you can see, and I was remembering a dream that I had. And it was very interesting because I think it was me remembering a past life. I know some people don't believe in past lives. I do. I have had enough experience, personal experience, and I've read enough and learned enough about past lives that I know what it's all about and why it makes so much sense. But essentially, the idea is that we reincarnate and we come into life many times. So our soul is like the cloud, and our spirits, our individual spirits, like me, Ferny, is like a cell phone. And as you well know, like many people go through various different cell phones in the course of their smartphone lifetime. What happens is, I think that we as souls use many different personalities, many different spirit personalities through the course of its existence. And I'll switch up, I'll have an iPhone 6 one year, and I'll have an iPhone 7 the next year, and each one is its own individual personality, its own individual type of spirit. It's its own spirit. So for us as humans, we have a soul, and then each soul has various spirits that it utilizes through the course of its lifetime to experience things from that unique perspective. So my soul is something grander and bigger than I am, and I'm just a condensed version of that individual, of that soul, of that energy. So I'm like a spirit, and my spirit's name is Ferny. In this lifetime, it's Ferny, it's Fernando. And then once I'm done with this lifetime, then I will die. I will no longer be in this body, and then my spirit will, detach, reconnect fully with the soul, and understand itself from this unique perspective. And then a new personality will be spit out, and it'll be reborn in another body, in another lifetime, and so forth. So I've had various lifetimes. We've all had various lifetimes. It's not just like some people have had past lives and some people haven't. I have had various past lives, and you can tell if someone has just been recently incarnated, or who's just a new spirit, a new soul. Newer souls don't have as much awareness and comprehension and as much information stored as the older souls. So, you can tell an old soul because you might meet this young kid and they just speak like an older individual. They just come across as a very old individual. And it's just because they have had many lifetimes, so they've gathered a lot of information. So regardless of how young they may be in this lifetime, physical lifetime, their soul is so much older because it's had so many lifetime experiences. While some people who you can tell they were fresh off the reincarnation bus. I mean, they were born yesterday, and just their personality is very naive in the way that it sees things or understands things. And you can tell an older soul from a younger soul. And even those, we, like I said, we all have various spirits that we have used during incarnations. Some souls have had many, some souls have had few. So I have had several lifetimes, and in this life I've come to understand at least 3 that were significant for me. One of my lifetimes I was a female, and this was back in the Oregon Trail days, when U.S., United States, North America was just being colonized, and people were going and they were establishing their homesteads. And I was a female, and I was married to this man. This was big burly guy. And we had a home, and we had children, and it was my job to be the homemaker, to manage the home, and to keep everything going. Like I said, this was back in the Western days. So his job was to go out, work in the fields, work in farming, and all that other stuff. And he was not a very kind person. I think he had a lot of issues, and he was always very resentful, and he would take out his anger and his resentment and kind of his own pain out on me. So he would get physically aggressive, and he also had a drinking problem. And I just didn't know how to defend myself, and I would just deal with it. And it was normal back in those days. If a husband beat his wife, you didn't say anything. It was very normal in some people's homes. So, fast forward, that lifetime ended. I'm born into this lifetime, and my cousin, one of my close cousins, and I, we were raised very close to each other. We were almost raised like brother and sister because we were so close. And so when we were kids, we used to play with Barbies, and I was always Barbie, and she was always Ken. And so she always took the male role, and I always take the female role. But as kids, she was kind of a bully, and she would bully me around, and she'd say, you know, go make me a sandwich, or go get me a Coke, or go do this for me. And I would just do it. I would get up and do it as if it were my job or my responsibility. I would do it. I think part of it was because I was a big people pleaser, so I wanted to please her and make her happy. But at the same time, I just felt like it was my job to do it. And so we had that weird dynamic as kids, and she was always bullying me around and pushing me around. I remember one time we got into a fist fight, my cousin and I, and we were just like pulling each other's hair and like fighting and stuff. And that was the only fight I remember I was getting into. But as adults, you know, we still are close. We still have a connection. We don't talk as much or see each other as much, but we still communicate. We still connect with each other. And I had a dream once, and in my dream, everything that I talked to you about, everything that I told you about, like, you know, this man being burly and all that played out in my dream. But as we got to the end of the dream, I realized that the man was my cousin and I was the female. And it wasn't just, you know, these other people that I was seeing. It was me and this interaction with my cousin. So when I woke up, I realized, like, oh my gosh, like that makes perfect sense why we were the way we were as kids. And I thought back to all these different incidents as kids that we experienced. And it was because we have had lifetimes together. So she's what I would call a kindred spirit, and I'm a kindred spirit for her, and we have an agreement as souls. It's getting cloudy outside. We have an agreement as souls, as spirits, to work with each other through various lifetimes and give each other the use of experience, the use of lifetimes together and giving each other experiences and sharing and having an effect on each other. So I'm sure we will have other lifetimes together, but in this lifetime it helped me really understand the clarity about our interactions as kids and why we were the way we were. So, and in this, and some of the themes that we experienced in that lifetime have come up in this lifetime. Like I know she's had to deal with a drinking problem in this lifetime and trying to overcome that and trying to deal with that. I've had to deal with physical abuse and trying to overcome that and grow past that. So we've had some of these themes play out in our lives, me having to stand up for myself and not letting anybody push me around that way. And so these themes showed up in our lifetimes, and they're still being worked through. They're still being dealt with. And so sometimes the issues that we have in our lives are not just because of that lifetime, just because of like what you experienced as a child. Sometimes they've been developed, or they've been dealt with various times in various lifetimes, and you're continuing to work through them. And that's just our soul's way of gaining that understanding, that awareness through the unique perspective of the spirit personality, which me being Ferny and then her being her. So, but a few days ago, I had a dream, and I'm going to tell you about this dream, and I'm going to tell you why, what it's actually in regards to. So, I dreamt that I was on a ship. I was a stewardess on a ship, and this was back in the early 1900s because of the attire, where everybody was dressed in kind of semi-Victorian garb. And so I was working on my ship, and the ship ran into some issues, and so we were tasked with, well, my job, my direct supervisor on the ship let me know, and it was a man. He told me that I needed to make sure everything, like check inventory, check stock levels, and make sure that everything was put away properly, because we were going to be rendezvousing or getting together with another ship, and we may be, you know, having to use some of our stuff. So I had to go over like checklists. So I'm in the ship, and the ship is stopped, and you know, people aren't knowing what the heck's going on because no one's really talking. No one knows what's going on. But I'm supposed to check inventory levels and like towels and teas and all, so teacups. And so I'm going through and checking inventory. And myself, and there are other stewardesses that I'm interacting with too. They know something's up, and I know something's up, but we don't exactly know what's going on. And then as the hours progress, the ship begins to tilt, and we start to feel things kind of tilting. And we're just like, okay, so we still aren't sure what's going on. We're kind of becoming worried because this doesn't feel normal to us, but they're telling us everything is okay, just keep doing what we're doing and just make sure that the passengers are comfortable and stuff. So we're like, okay. Well, at some point it gets so tilted that dishes start falling off of the shelves and things are not staying in place, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, something's definitely wrong. We can't just stay here and just continue to do what we're doing because things are starting to fall off shelves and so it's not okay. So we began to make our way out, and I made my way out of the inside of the ship, and I went onto the deck. And as I'm onto the deck, everybody's out there. Everybody's freaking out. People are trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody seems to have any answers to what's happening. You hear screams. You hear people jumping into the water. I mean, it's complete chaos. And so I am like, okay, so I know that I need to get to the end of the ship that's still up, because the rest of it seems to be going into the water. So I make my way over towards the end of the ship, but there's just no way that I'm going to be able to make it all the way to tail end, to the back of the ship. And so the ship keeps doing this. It keeps doing this and raising and raising and raising. And I decided that I was just going to go ahead and jump into the water, because staying on the ship was too dangerous, and people were just really being nasty with each other, trying to figure out, like trying to get closer and closer to the end of the ship. So I ended up jumping over into the water. It was freezing cold, and I could see the ship from a distance. I made my way away from the ship, and I could see it from a distance, but it was so cold. And I just remember getting so tired. And then, like, I remember the ship coming up, and then, like, and I remember it sinking. So, but it was a weird thing, because that part of it was a little sketchy in my dream, but I remember that happening, and then people, and then I woke up. Like, I woke up right after that happened. So I'm pretty sure that I died on the Titanic. And the reason why I feel this is a past life memory that just surfaced with my dream was because as a kid, I was always infatuated. I was always obsessed with the Titanic. And I would go and, I actually still have a model in the other room. I have a model of the Titanic. Like, that's how obsessed I was with the ship. And this was way before the movie came out. I mean, as a kid, I used to draw pictures of it, and I used to draw it from a specific angle. Like, right when the ship is going up right when it's sticking out of the water, and it's at an angle. I would always draw that same image. And I was just obsessed with it. And whenever they would have shows and specials about the Titanic and what happened and finding the wreckage, I was just so perplexed and so like, and I would continue to draw. And I'm like, I would keep trying to refine my picture when I would draw it, because I was like, this was like this and this was like this. So I was very obsessed with it. And this was before the movie came out. And then when the movie came out, I was just like in awe, because I felt so connected to it and so drawn to it. So I'm pretty sure that I had a past life in which I died on the Titanic. Now, I was a stewardess, so I would have thought, well, maybe I'm like a wealthy person or whatever. And that happens a lot. Many times when people think that they've had a past life, you'll hear somebody, oh, I was a king, or I was a princess, or I was an empress, or whatever. And those are the most common things people associate to, because that's their own sense of grandeur. Like, they want to feel grand. They want to feel like they were someone important. Most times when people reincarnate, people who were wealthy or people who were well-known or prominent typically reincarnate within other roles that are similar. For example, like, the president would have been someone else in a past life that would have held the same kind of stature, because they have certain lessons they are learning. They have certain awarenesses that they're coming into based off of those points of view from that elevated stature or state. So, if someone was the Pope in this lifetime, in a previous lifetime, there would have been similar themes. There would have been similar stature, similar position. And it's not because, oh, well, what is it? It's like, is there an upper class and a lower class, two souls? No, it's just the theme of it. The parts that they take on are just going to be on the same level. So life is like a play, and we're all just playing parts, and I'm playing this part, this role, but in a past lifetime I played similar roles, similar perspectives. And there's another lifetime that I want to tell you guys about, but I'll tell you guys on a different time, because I did end up having a past life regression once, where I went to go see a past life regressionist. And there's a woman here in Houston, her name is Melanie Harrell, and she studied with Brian Weiss, who's the author of Many Lives, Many Masters. But I had a session with her, and some amazing insights came out through the session, which I have to share with you guys. That'll be on another story. But if you want to have a past life regression, I'll post her information and attach it to this video. But I just wanted to share my dream, because it was so fascinating to have the dream and finally like see it, how it played itself out with that lifetime when I died on the Titanic. But all right, guys, I hope you're having a happy Sunday, and I will talk to you next time. Okay, bye.